There. This is H. Victoria Hager Ackerson. I'm an author and a writer. And this week we are talking about um, ways we can incorporate our interests and things that we enjoy to our writing. I find that if you give part of yourself in your writing, that means you include something that you love in your writing and you break it down so that people can relate to that, your readers are going to love you for it because you're talking about your point of view. And a lot of times we look for in writing things that will enhance ourselves. That means you may know something about a particular area that no one else knows or nobody else has brought attention to. So those are the things that people want to find. Let's have that fresh point of view, that real special thing that make you unique and make people want to say, hey, we need to look into this a little further. So we want to do that. So today we're going to talk about things that we can write about that we know. And the most fun for me is to write about families and family relationships. So you can go wild, absolutely wild with this one because there is so much that you can write about. You can talk about your relationships with your siblings, brothers, sisters. You can talk about your aunts and uncles, mother's father. I mean, distant cousins. I mean, there is just so much you can do here. You can talk about child abuse. You can talk about spousal abuse, incarceration of family members. You could talk about drug addiction and how it affects the family and how incarceration infects a family. Not only are adults incarcerated, children are incarcerated. So, what happens in those families that are tragically hit by those circumstances? You can bring that out. One of the things that I enjoy doing, because I do romance, I love interpersonal relationships because I think that's like the magic of writing when you can bring in how people relate to each other, why they relate to each other, why people are attracted to each other. In a family setting, you can easily do this. You can examine what we think of marriage. What do we think of courting, dating? What practices do people have in different areas of the country? I mean, there is just so much here. It is the most fascinating, for me, it is the most fascinating part of writing when you can bring those things in. And then you have your formal families and you have your informal families. There are families that we are given by God, and those are ones that we are born into. Now, one of the things that I like to examine is the fact that you can always write about good parents, but there's also bad parents. And I remember a little kid told me once, because I worked at a home for dependent, neglected children, and I was shocked to hear when I first started working there that she hated her parents. And well, you can't hate your parents. She said, yes, I can, because they're mean and they don't like me. And it took me a while to grasp that because for me, like your parents are everything. So a little kid comes along and says, I hate my parents, or my parents are very bad. And you hear this over and over again because there are some bad parents out there. Okay. There are also some bad kids. So you have to look at both, look at everything and think of some topic. Maybe there's a sample in your family's history that people don't talk about because we have a lot of skeletons sometimes and people don't like to talk about them, but you could fictionalize those things. Now, one of the things I detest now, I'm not telling you to tell on your family, I do not tell family secrets that affect people who are living today. Do not put people's business out there. That's gossiping. And you can't adapt gossiping to a writing exercise that is incorporated in a storyline because to me that's unethical. So when a person, you can write about a condition without writing about a specific person. You need to be as general and as original. You have to make that story yours. You may take an example, say a person in your family was unemployed for a long time, or and you want to talk about how that affected everybody in the family. You're not going to discuss a personal person who had those difficulties, but you can talk generally on that subject. You can write about those instances, how they affected the family, how long it went on, what happened to their living conditions, their communication within the family, things of that sort, without telling people's personal business. This is a fine line that we have to draw when we are writers. You want to fictionalize that. Not unless you want to do a tell-all, a diary, or a memoir, something of that sort, then you have a little bit more liberty to do that. But you have to be careful not to gossip and not to tell people's personal business. So you want to keep your family loving you, right? So a good idea is to just be conscious of the fact that you want to protect their privacy and do them a favor. Don't do that. So we could talk about another area in family relationships you want to talk about is something I just went through, like death. How do people react to death? How do people internalize that as they continue after a person dies? We have a lot of issues around death and dying that we need to explore because some people just do not grasp the dynamics of the whole experience. We were fortunate in a way because we had a different attitude toward death, I think. It's tragic. We cried a lot, but in the end, we celebrated that death. And it was a wonderful experience. My grandson and I sang to my husband in his last moments, and it was a wonderful experience for us and for him. And, you could see a little smile on his face and a little tear fell down out of his eyes because it was a terrific ending. How would you? I mean, I would love it if somebody sang me into heaven, and I think we did because he was a great guy. But death is something that we want to explore. There's different phases that people go through, whether it's in elementary school, high school, college. There are all kinds of experiences that you can also write about that will enhance any story. Different phases of a person's life, their child development, how they develop into an adult. And I think I did that pretty well in Walking Among the Kudzu, where we talked about a young girl and her journey into adulthood, how she started out, how she ended. And, this little girl, by the way, is a black child, although she looks white. And that's another part of the story we want to talk about because in that family, light-skinned people were not welcome. They weren't appreciated by immediate family members, or in this case, it was the child's mother. So, and she raised her up until the time she was, 16 years old. And then we talk about how that affected her in her own social interactions with other people in school and college, and blah, 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 So think about all those things. Another area that's really cool to talk about, which we don't do very much about, is talking about adoptions and how those children adapt to their new parents, how those new parents learn to adapt to that new child. That's also a really good topic for someone to explore. And if you were adopted, maybe that's something you want to write about in your memoirs, or just write it into a fictionalized story. Great stuff. We have so much that we can do. I'm trying to think of some other things. If I did not mention alcoholism, did I say that? And another one that my favorites is to talk about senior citizens because as we get older, we get more bold, we get less restrictive about what we talk about and how we express ourselves. So that's something you want to look at. Aging is a different type of interaction that we do. As we age, we interact differently with people, and it's a good thing to have. And we were talking about this at book club the other day, how important it is to have grandmothers and grandfathers and just multi generations of people, because those people who are older are kind of a barometer for the younger people and letting them know what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, especially like if you have a new child in the family, a new infant. That older person would say, "Oh, you don't have to do that. Do this," or "Don't feed that child that," or that child. And this is a good example somebody used the other day. Older person told a new mother, "Put some rice in that child's milk because that regular milk is not staying on his stomach. That's why he's crying so much." And the person did that, and guess what? The child settled down, and the crying was like diminished quite a bit. So older people have a wisdom, and they have the experience that they can share with people. So maybe the dynamics between a younger person and older person is something you want to explore. So take a look at those topics, okay? It's going to be great. And don't forget to cheer for the Eagles, okay? They're going to the Super Bowl. You take care. God bless you, and love someone special, and love to you. God bless.